Hello, Steamy here already. So I have here to look at Volvo XC90. So apparently I've seen this 3 years ago. I don't actually remember it, but 3 years ago I fixed the DPF on this and it's been fine ever since, but around about 3 years ago exactly, basically, now the fault has come back. So let's have a look at what's going on. Right, inside we have an engine management light on. So let's just see what happens when it starts up, because sometimes you can get different messages. Driver door open. How do you press OK on these here? Engine system service required. That's it basically. It's the only message we get. Right, so we'll load up the diagnostic scan tool. This is the X431 Euro from Launch. So we'll see what fault codes we have, and hopefully that'll point us in the right direction to where we're looking at. Okay, so we'll just run through the scan here. We can see we have a few different faults in different areas. Diesel is what we're looking at. Swirl, actuator control, pressure sensor, particulate-trap, misfire on at least one cylinder. So it's the main stuff is swirl actuators, misfire on cylinder 5, which isn't apparent. It doesn't have a misfire. Maybe it did intermittently at some point. It certainly doesn't have a misfire right now. Okay, so we're gonna go look at the live data. Let's look at if we can find cylinder 5. It depends what the car will show us. No. Injector, no. A lot of these older cars are very, very limited in what information you can find. So you can see that's the whole list. That's the full list of everything there. Not a lot to look at. Vehicle speed. We'll click on that. Swirl actuator position. There's nothing else there to look at really. 65%. So it is moving. Or at least the motor is moving. Why have we got... We've got 0 reading on the DPF. Nothing at all there. Have we got soot content anywhere? Doesn't look like it. Right, let's get a look under the bonnet. Okay, we have the 5-cylinder diesel. So you got 5 fuel injectors on this, 5 cylinders. And number 5 is going to be the end one. That actually sounds fine. I don't know why it's giving the error. Over here, we've got... Who's tied that up?
I have, just to keep it in line, because it wasn't really catching.
Okay.
Bit of DIY.
That's probably going to stop the movement though. Do you want to give it a rev for me, up and down? That would probably restrict the movement of the intake flap there. Yeah, that's definitely restricting it. You can see it's trying to move more forward, but it's definitely restricting how much the arm can pull in. It's trying to pull all the way in, you see, and it will go so far, and then the cable is...
You might have got tighter over time.
Yeah, the cable is holding it back.
Yeah.
So, like, ideally this has got a leak.
Yeah.
I leak. So, ideally that would need replacing this with the swirl flaps and a new arm. Because not only have we got a leak, obviously these arms tend to pop off. I think that's why he's tied it on. So, we'll get a cutter in. Alright, let's get that cut. Get rid of that. So we can see that the arm has come off there. If you give that a rev again, yeah, that's okay. Let's just see if that, for starters, see if it moves. Give it a full rev down and let go. Right, so you can see that arm is actually going way further in now. So it's not restricting, it's pulling miles further in than it was.
Thank you.
But it doesn't feel, well, saying that, it's not coming off. See, it came off earlier when the cable was tied to it, pulling the cable. Okay, so what I've done here now is I've swapped the unit around. So basically just twisted it around, put it back on. So change the angle of it. And sometimes that can help it stay in line a bit better. Let's try that again, a few more revs. Okay, so having a chat with a customer there, it doesn't want to spend the money on putting a new swirl flap system on the vehicle. So I put a new arm on that, I think 3 years ago, and it's been fine since. The reason he tied the cable on it was just so it doesn't pop off again. It hasn't been popping off, but he just put the cable on it anyway. So what I'd suggest here from now is to maybe, if that arm is worn out, it looks a bit slightly worn out again, get a new arm. They're not expensive, they're cheap. And we will, for now, see if we can get a reading on the DPF. So first off, I'm just going to try to clear the fault codes. Read, see what we've got left. Right, so we've still got the pressure trap. So it looks like it might need a sensor on that, because that's a hard fault code, it's not even clearing. We will look for the pressure trap sensor there. We don't have anything else, which is weird. That's about as much information as it looks like we're going to get. Right, let's have a look at the vehicle running again after the codes were cleared. A lot of cars are like that, Renaults especially. You clear the fault code and then the sensor comes back on. This one looks like a dead sensor. Okay, so we're just going to remove this arm here that goes across the top. Out that goes. DPF pressure sensor is down here. Just here. So just to mention, on this one, when I put the arm on this 3 years ago, it had the oil leak, but it's lasted all that time without giving the fault back. So he's happy to just leave that off for now, and we look at the DPF itself. So the sensor that's fitted in the car is very similar to this. I hope this is the right one. I've got one here. Obviously, I haven't ordered this for this car, but this is just one I have in the van. There'll be two. It's situated like that. T20 Torx here. Two rubber hoses that attach here. One slightly bigger than the other. Okay, so here are the two sensors. This is the old one. I don't know if I replaced this last time.
You did?
I did I?
Yep.
Okay, I did. 3 years ago. They are quite renowned for failing, these sensors, so let's try this one, put that in. Yeah, same, it's a Ford sensor. Yeah, Ford sensor. So I haven't checked the part numbers or anything on that. That's just a sensor that I have in the van. But what we'll do is the same procedure again. We will, once that sensor is plugged in, we have Brendan out here doing that. Once that sensor is plugged in, I will clear the fault code here and then see if the circuit issue is gone. Hopefully the circuit issue will be gone. If not, we'll go by the reg number and we'll get a part number and get the correct part down here and see if that will. It looks pretty much the same. There's a slightly different build to it, but it's a different brand, so that's to be expected. So I noticed over here the customer's got his own scan tool, iCar Soft CR Max. I have got a few requests to have a look at these tools in the past, so we'll try one out soon. We'll get one and we'll try it out. Again, we try clear the fault code. Please wait for half a minute and check. Nobody got time for that. Yeah, DTCs are gone. Right, let's have a look at the live data now. See if our live data is working now that we've changed the sensor. Right, it is working, but why have we got to read them with the engine off? We'll have to go to special functions and see if we can calibrate the sensor here. And airflow differential pressure sensor. Let's try that. Okay, so after the calibration, it's come down to 63, so I'm still not happy with that. So I don't know if this is an issue with the sensor or the vehicle software. So what we are going to do is I'll order another sensor and we will plug that in, recalibrate that, and see where we go from there. Hopefully we'd like to see that number. It should be on 0 basically. So the engine off, that should be on 0. So you've got a zeroed out reading, and then when you start the engine we should see the numbers move. But the numbers will move if the engine starts, but we're starting from a number that is not 0, so it's not ideal. Okay, so as I was talking here, the sensor has just magically dropped straight to 20. Maybe, you know, some of these sensors might take 20 minutes or so to adapt into the system. We'll give that another few minutes before we make any more movements and see how it goes. Okay, I've got a second sensor. We're going to plug this one in, see what the difference is. We want one that's going to read 0 basically at idle, with the engine off, sorry. Okay, so now we just do the same procedure. We will adapt that sensor in. Okay, and we are done. Right, so this one has started off exactly the same as where the other one was, which is strange. I think what we're going to do is just let this sensor sit in the vehicle for 5 minutes and basically let it sort of zero itself out. I think it will sort of correct itself if we just leave the ignition on. Okay, so we've got round about 100 HPA with the vehicle idling at that speed there. Now in regards to this sensor reading 6,500, 65,000 HPA or 60 minus 60 or 65 bar, what that is when the sensor goes below 0, it just goes to the default reading of 6,500. That will correct itself over some time. It's just basically, it's just reading, the 65,000 is basically because it's reading minus 1 HPA. Once it goes below 0, it just goes to the max reading basically. So we are getting 100 on here, so what I'll do is I'll confirm, are we getting the same pressure on a manometer if I connect it into the DPF pressure pipe itself that goes to the DPF, just to confirm that we're getting the same sort of reading, and then we'll know how accurate the sensor is that we've just fitted. Okay, so we've got our manometer here. Try and get that. We have exactly 101 on there, and that is connected to the DPF pressure sensor just down there. Okay, so we're going to start the cleaning process on the DPF using our Launch UK DPF cleaning fluid. We're going to use this gun, and that goes into the pipe for the DPF, which is down the back here. We've got the sensor disconnected, so the bigger pipe, the bigger hose pipe over here, that one, connect that on there. So it is the one at the back that this one attaches to. So we'll leave that there for a minute. Okay, this is connected to the airline, 120 psi, and we just squeeze the trigger. You'll see the foam going through the tube. Oh, didn't put that on tight enough. Okay, so we'll just rest that on there, just to hold it in place while we get the fluid in. And just keep squeezing that fluid in there until it's all gone. Just hold the trigger down until it's all gone in there. Okay, now we've got that disconnected. We just let the pipe dry out, so any excess fluid that's in there, we just let that come out before we reconnect the sensor on. Now to persuade that to come out a little bit quicker, we can just give it a few revs. Right, so a few more cycles of the ignition, we are getting the sensor to read 2-3 now. So let's start it up now. See where our cleaning fluid has brought us down to. So we got 13. If you minus the 3 that we're starting out, so we should have around about 10 pressure now. Right, now I'm happy to take this car on a test drive to check brake lights. Okay, so we've just completed a test drive. Right, we have actually got it down to sort of 2 to 0 now. It is hovering around a bit there when you turn the key on. Idle pressure, we have 6, 7. So if you minus that couple that was on there, we are close to perfect. Let's hold the revs up a little bit. 34, 35. That's all good. I have noticed on these, if we come to special function here and we go to combustion of the soot particles, it will give us a little bit more live data, look. So we've got the grams of soot there, which we couldn't see in the live data. So we're finished on the Volvo. We haven't done all of the repairs that were needed. Obviously we see that we had a swirl flap issue. We just took the cable off it to allow the swirl flaps to move properly. In the future it's going to need new swirl flaps. We have ignored the cylinder 5 misfire code because it didn't come back anymore, and the engine is clearly not misfiring. So we'll keep an eye on it in the future. We will see this customer again. So
You will.
yeah, we'll see him.
Thanks, Jimmy. Really appreciate your time.
And we'll see this car probably again, and we'll see you on the next video.